Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now this week's video is another one in the classic cameras from the past, but I'll tell you a little story first how I acquired these cameras. Now I was working at somebody's house a while back who knew that I was interested in film photography and film cameras, etc., and he said, "Martin, I've got some cameras in the loft in a bag. I've collected them over the years." He said, "I've never used them and I never will." He says, "If you want them, you can have them. If not, if they're no good and they don't work, just throw them in the bin." So like a true Yorkshireman, as the saying goes in Yorkshire, out for note, I said, "Yes, I'll have them." So he came down with this bag on his loft and gave me them. So I came home and I started looking to see what I'd got. First camera that I pulled out was this one. It's a Helena 35mm compact camera. This is an autofocus one, but unfortunately I can't get it going. The electronics have gone. I've put batteries in it, just won't work. But it's I'll keep trying because it's a nice solid compact camera this, and if I can get it working I'm sure it'll take good pictures. Let's have a look. The next one was this one. It's a Fuji, again another Fuji compact camera, another compact camera, a 35mm again. Put the batteries in, tried to get it working, and the electronics have gone. And then another one, another compact Helena 35mm. This one's totally had it because the battery compartment, the batteries have leaked and they're completely seized up and I can't get them out of there, so that one isn't going to work. So I was getting a little bit disappointed until I pulled out this one. Now this is a folding camera. It's a Kodak Jiffy. It takes 620 film. Now 620 film is exactly the same as size as 120 roll film. The negative width is just the same. It's just that the spools are different and they don't make them spools anymore. But there is a way of getting 120 film to work in these cameras, and in another video I'll show you how how you can do that. But it's a great camera. There's a few things that need attention on this one, but the one that really got my attention, no, it's not a Leica, I'm not that lucky, is this one. It's a Kershaw Penguin camera. It's the 820 model, and this one's 6x9 camera like the Jiffy, but this takes 120 roll film, so you don't have to adjust the film to fit in this camera. It goes straight in. And the reason why I really interested in this camera, because it's a fellow Yorkshireman. This camera was made by a company called Kershaw's in Leeds, and that's my hometown, and they were sold in Soho. So this was a camera that I really wanted to get working, and because I have that sort of connection with it. It's a Yorkshire camera, is this. Now the camera has a few little faults with it, and hopefully I'm going to get them working. The first one is on the top there it has a distance scale, and that you can set it from 6 feet, 10 feet and infinity, which is quite handy. But there's a lever that you move, supposed to push to set to those distances, and it moves the lens out, but unfortunately it's seized up and I can't move it, and as I press it I'm bending the struts on the camera, and these struts are quite strong, so I don't want to damage those. So I'm going to have to get to that and get that lubricated. I think it'll be on some sort of helicoid where it just screws out, the lens comes out further. So that's one thing. The apertures, which are f11 and f16, are working fine. They're what they call Waterhouse stops. It's not an aperture as such with aperture blades, it's just a plate with a hole drilled in it to give the aperture size. The other thing is the shutter, although it does work, after a while it tends to stick. So I don't want to have to go out with the camera and not have the confidence to use it. So I've got to get that working. I think it just needs a little bit of lubrication. The other thing is the lens elements on this camera, as with the Kodak Jiffy, are really dirty and they need a good clean. So what I'm going to do, the video is about this camera. I'm going to get it all cleaned up, dismantle it, and just see if I can fix these faults with the camera. Now the bellows on this camera are really good. I've taken the back off and then turned all the lights out in the dark room here and shone a bright torch with my eye right up to the back, all these angles where the folds are, all around the bellows, and I couldn't see a light leak, so that's good. Often cameras of this age, I think this was built in the early 50s, the bellows can be damaged just depending how much they're being used, but they are very good on this camera. I actually think the leather, so that's good. The viewfinder here needs cleaning up as well. I can't hardly see out of that. They're bad enough these to use when they're clear, but when they are dirty and misted up, they're nearly impossible to use. So I'm going to show you now the camera. I'm going to take it to bits and show you what I've done, and then put it all back together and show you it working. So I'll get on with that now. So I've completely disassembled the camera. Fortunately, these cameras are really easy to work on. If I can do it, anybody can. You just need a decent set of screwdrivers and some, I think they call them lens calipers. That's for removing rings, you know, elements in the camera itself, and removing this ring at the back of the camera. You can see it's slotted, so you really got to have one of these to work on the cameras. You know, to put it in those slots and then turn it. Unfortunately, with this, it's set behind the bellows and they're really tight there, so I had to resort to getting a screwdriver, a small one, and push the ring round like that. But I eventually did it. I'll paint that black when I put it back together, and it removed this part of the camera. Now this acts in different ways. It actually holds the lens assembling shutter to the camera, and it also holds the bellows in place. This locks to the struts on the camera. So to really work on this and to get to this helicoil, which was sticking really bad, I had to take it out of the camera by undoing that ring. Now while it was out, the rear element on the camera, this is it there, this was really dirty. I've got to clean that. That fitted inside there, and again you need that caliper to get into those slots and unscrew it, so I've got to clean that. And then the helicoid, I call it helicoid, I might be wrong. This moves the lens elements apart, and it enables you to focus at 6 foot, 10 foot and infinity. So you've got a little bit of an idea where your focus is with this camera, which is really good. So I've got that working. This also holds the shutter assembly, which goes into the camera like that, and then there's a plate that goes over the top of it like that. See that? I think it's something like that. Put that round there. That's it. It goes like that, and then we have the plate that goes on top of that. And to get to all that, there's just 3 screws to undo. So it's dead easy. And that, as I say, enables you to get to the shutter. Now this was sticking slightly, so I've cleaned it up. I use a lighter fluid. It cleans it, and it evaporates very quickly. And I use a little brush, a little bit of a sewing machine oil, just on any areas that pivot. Now that's the aperture. That'll be f11 as it is now, and that's f16. So I'd get a little brush with a little bit of oil and just push it under the joint. Don't put big drops on it and run all over, and it'll end up clogging everything up. It could get on your lens elements as well. The same here, little lever that pivots there. Put some oil on that, and one on the back. That's the actual spring for the shutter speed, which is approximately 50th of a second. As you can see, as I fire it now, it's not sticking. It's working great. That's moving freely as well. And by taking off the front plate, it reveals the the front element. It's a very simple lens, so I can clean both front and back of it. So all I've got to do now is reassemble the camera, put it back together, and see if it's all working okay. The other thing with this camera is that the back isn't hinged. It lifts completely off, so it makes it very easy to work on. So I'll put it all together and we'll see how it's working from there. Right, after looking at all them bits and bobs on the workbench, I was getting worried if I could remember how to put it back together, but fortunately it's a very easy camera to work on. And this is it now, all fully working as it should do. I've got the shutter working, it works now, it doesn't miss a beat, works perfectly. The actual apertures, which are just holes in a round plate, if there were, they call them multi-hole apertures when they're in this type of camera, but if they were loose and you fitted them into a lens, they would be called Waterhouse stops. They're working perfectly. I lubricated that and it's moving freely now. The distance scale, if you see now, I can move that easily. If you see the lens, it moves in and out. That's at 6 foot, 10 foot and infinity. That works perfectly. I cleaned the viewfinder up. I've got it as good as I can. There's a bit of discoloration on the mirror inside, so I'm just going to have to manage with that. I managed to get to all the lens elements and clean those. The front element, it cleaned up easily with the lens cleaning fluid, but the back one was more problematic. It had stains on that I just couldn't remove with the fluid. So I used some selenium oxide. It's a powder that you mix into a paste, and you just rub it with a Q-tip. I just rubbed it in a circular motion on the lens and it got every mark off, and it actually come up like new, so the glass is perfect on it. The bellows on this camera, as I said before, I tested them with a torch, but just to make sure, what I've done, if I open the back, I've painted inside all the angles, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. I've done it with rubberized paint, black rubberized paint. I'll give it a couple of coats, and that will fill up any pinholes that I didn't see, and it'll also help to keep the bellows together, so that's great. They are really nice bellows on this. I do think they are leather. So all in all, I'm really pleased how that went, and hopefully the camera's going to work okay. Now before we go out with the camera, I'm just going to give you a closer look at it and just tell you certain functions and how they work. Right, before I show you the camera in detail, a few technical specifications. The camera has a 90mm lens, and the focus is variable. As I said, it's from 6 foot, you can move it to 10 foot to infinity or in between. You just got to guesstimate those distances. The apertures run on what they call multi-hole apertures. There's just 2 apertures, f11 and f16, and the shutter speed on this camera is round about 1/50th of a second. They're the main specifications. The finish on this camera is really nice. It's nearly mint, is this. It's what they call a black crackle finish, which was very popular in the early 50s, more art deco as you might say, and it's just finished off with this lovely chrome leg on the front of the camera. Now to load film into the camera, you press that lever down there and the back should pull off quite easily. There you go. And I've no 120 film to show you, but to load film into the camera, if you just imagine this is a roll of film, this is dead easy to load. You pull that up there and then pull these springs apart, put the film in there, drop it down, pull the leader of the film across to this take-up spool, push it into the large slot there, and then keep turning. I put a little bit of pressure on at this side on the film and keep turning until you see the start mark stop round about there. Put the back on. There's no hinge on this, just clips onto the back like that and then snaps shut. And then looking through the red window, keep winding until you see the number 1 appear, then stop. Now the thing, as I always say with these cameras, when you're working with a red window, when you've taken your first shot, do it straight away, wind onto the second shot, otherwise you will forget and you'll start double exposing. I normally cover that with black tape when I go out, because modern film's more sensitive to light than the older films. At the top of the camera, as I say, you've got the wind on knob. This wind on knob, when you want to remove the film, it pulls up like that, and you can again remove the film easily. I'll just show you that, because it really is easy to unload and load this camera. Go like that and then pull that up, and it just falls out. So there's no problem loading it up at all. It's dead easy to work with. Let's back on. That's it. The front of the camera, there's just nothing there. As I say, there's just this leg for when the camera's stood up, when it's opened. There's a button there to open it. You press that button, the camera opens, and then make sure that you push the struts fully up, like that, both sides. And then this is where the leg comes in. You can stand it like that. Now looking at the camera from the top, as you can see, we've got this lever that will set the distances. It moves like that, and it pushes the lens outwards, if you can see that happening, like that. So it's not a true focus system, but it does enable you to get closer to your subject. And then we've got a B setting. Press that down and the lens stays open. Release it, it closes. I can't see the point in that really, because there's no thread for a cable release, and there's no tripod socket on this camera, so I won't be using the B setting. But you go from B to 1 second using this lever at the side, and just pressing that down releases the shutter. To set the apertures, we have the mark there, f11 and f16. Just move it across like that, and it moves the apertures, the multi-hole aperture there. And we've got this lovely name there, Kershaw 820 Penguin. It should have said made in Leeds. And one thing you have to remember with this camera is if you set the distance scale, there's a marker on here that tells that you must make sure that marker goes in line with the fixed marker there, like that. Otherwise the camera won't shut. So that's the front of the camera. It's very, very simple. And then all you do with this camera is look down, try and get some composition with these type of viewfinders. They're not the easiest to use. And then take your picture. That's in portrait format. In landscape, you simply turn it that way. And what you're using is the areas between those cutouts there. It's not the whole square. So that would be a landscape format, and then that would be a portrait. And then to close the camera, you just push the struts down, making sure that lever is fully over to infinity. Close it down like that, and it just closes up, goes in your pocket. So all in all, a really simple but well thought out and put together camera that'll slip easily into a coat pocket. So get out now and take some pictures and see if it's working okay. Right, I've reached my destination. I'll show you in a minute. I've got the camera, 6x9 camera, in my coat pocket. This is what's great about these folding cameras. They're so easy to carry about, and yet you get this lovely big negative to work with. And I've loaded the camera with Ilford FP4, and I'll get 8 exposures on one roll of 120 film, so I'll be a little bit careful, but I don't know whether this camera's going to let light into it, light leaks. I've checked the bellows, they seem light tight, but you can never tell. The door that fits on the back of the camera, that might let light in, especially where it snaps shut and it locks shut. But I won't know until I've tested the camera really, so I'll show you in a minute where I am, and tell you some quite interesting stories about this actual place that we're going to photograph, or in and around this place we're going to photograph. So I've reached my destination now, and this is the area that I'm going to be photographing in around this airport, which you can see just there. That's the terminal. Some of you might have landed here, and if you've lived in the UK, you've certainly heard of it. It's Leeds and Bradford Airport. It's an airport that over the years has grown and grown, and now it's an international airport. When I was a young lad walking around these areas, this airport was actually very, very small, and you know, you wouldn't let jets landing on it. Well, there weren't jets those days, but they were just light aircraft that used to land. But over the years, as I say, they've extended the runway, and in fact a few years ago jumbo jets used to land here, some really big aircraft, magnificent to watch from this viewpoint here. But the best aircraft was the Concorde. Absolutely magnificent to watch it landing and taking off, but all the noise was horrendous. When it took off, I'm not joking, all the car alarms and the house alarms all around this area, it used to set them off with the vibrations, but fantastic to watch. Now, my claim to fame, I don't know if anybody else took a picture of this, but I was walking around this airport, around the perimeter fence, just taking pictures of aircraft, etc., and I heard this noise. Because I live around this area, I got used to hearing the Concorde and thought, and knew that it was the Concorde coming into land. So I wasn't really prepared for it, because I didn't know it was actually going to land that particular day. But I watched the aircraft, the Concorde, land, and I thought I'll get the best pictures of it actually taking off and landing. So I got one of it landing, and you can see in these pictures. This is the aircraft landing, and then the best picture, although you don't see much of the Concorde because of the actual lens I had on the camera, and it's a very grainy picture because I had to uprate the film so I could the light was you know, dropping. But I caught the Concorde taking off from this airport, and that was the last time the Concorde ever came to this airport. So to me, it's quite a significant picture. But I'm very pleased with it. We've got the trail coming from the back of it, and the aircraft's going up, swooping up into the sky. And if only I had a video camera, and you could have heard the noise that aircraft was making when it was climbing. As you see, there's a aircraft. No, there's a truck just checking on the runway. And then I'm going to tell you a little tale about this airport. I don't think it was used in the Second World War, but there's an industrial area around here, all around Eden Airport, and they used to make parts for I think it was Lancaster bombers. I stand corrected on that, but I think it was Lancaster bombers. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on. And over there is what we call, just through there, Eden Tarn, and that's a tarn. It's used for sailing small little boats on it as a sailing club, and I'll tell you the tale about that when I get there. But what I'm going to photograph today is this cemetery. I've never been in it, and I'm going to take some pictures here and just see how this lovely old camera captures images, and hopefully it's going to work. So well, I'll just have a little walk around and see what we can find. And as I say, I've got Ilford FB4 loaded in it, so the light's not brilliant at the moment, but I should be all right with that. I didn't want to put too fast a filming because I would have been overexposing the negative. I was going to put 400 tri-X in, but I think that would have been too fast to film because I've only got 2 apertures on this camera and 1 shutter speed, which is around about 50th of a second. So just have a little walk about and see what we can find. The old big tombstones interest me. There's some of them, the way they're made are absolutely amazing, and we're approaching some now. In fact, that might make a nice image looking through the trees at that one. We'll just see. Right, I've got the camera set up, and I'm going to use it at the infinity setting. I've got to set the aperture, which you use that lever there, to f11. So I'm just taking a light meter reading. That should give me a decent exposure. and just use it low down like this. So all I've got to do now is just check through this viewfinder, which is not easy on these cameras, but I can see I can just see the composition, and then just press the button, take the picture. Right, so that's the first exposure. One thing I have to remember, and I always say it in these videos, with these type of cameras, every time you've taken the shot, don't forget to wind the film on, otherwise you will forget. So I'll just stop and wind the film on, see if there's any other subjects. That looks quite nice down here. So we'll try this and try this closer in this time and see if I can throw some of the other gravestones out of focus. See if it works when you're using this lever on the camera. I can set it to 6 foot. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm going to take this picture with the camera low down. You've got to hold these cameras really steady because it is a slow shutter speed for a medium format camera. Trying to get the path leading line, the gravestones at the side. It's not easy with this viewfinder at all. I think that's it, so I'll take the picture, press it gently. Right, lovely little click, and we've got that picture. Got a little walk round, wind the camera on, and then there's another image that looks quite interesting to my eyes anyway, is this tree, the way it arches round. This one here, there, as you get close you might see it. It's arching around, we've got these gravestones leading up to it, so I'll see if I can get a composition there. Camera set at a low angle and trying to make some sort of composition here. It's really difficult to this viewfinder, but just see, I just want to get that, that's it. Right, take the shot. Again, around about 50th of a second at f11. So I quite like this, the way the tombstones laying at an angle. You don't often see them in this condition when they've been taken down. Obviously it looks like it's been taken down for safety reasons, but what I'm going to do is set the focusing scale on the camera to 6 feet and guesstimate that, and just take the picture of it lying down. I quite like that angle, it's unusual, and hopefully it should throw whatever's in the background slightly out of focus. So I'll do that now, take a light reading and take the picture. The light reading is about the same as what I've been getting, although it's getting a little bit brighter, but this is in the shade. And what I'm going to do is move this this scale here. It goes from 6 feet, 10 feet and infinity. I'm going to move that to 6 feet, and it moves this lens further out. And then just try that. Trying to focus with these cameras is not easy. It's a challenge. That's not looking too bad. So we'll go with that one. Right, that's that image taken, and then we'll move on. I might just take one more picture around here, because I want to save a couple for going around Eden Tarn, and I can tell you the little story about that lake and what happened during the Second World War. think with some of these older folding cameras, you're better trying to get things closer in. It's easier to see through the viewfinder. I noticed that there when I took the picture of that angel, that tombstone that had fallen down. Doing it at distance, it can be very, very difficult to get composition with them, but closer in it's easier. So the shots that I'm going to take now, the remaining shots that I've got on the roll, I'm going to get closer in rather than shoot, you know, more into the distance at subjects further away. I think I'll get the best images getting a little bit closer in, so that's what I'm going to do. I think I've about 4 shots left. So there's an aircraft just landing. To see it coming in now. Might take a picture if I can with that aircraft in the picture with the tombstones in front of it, just see how it turns out. I'll have to do that quick before it turns. So this is the tarn at Eden, and this tarn is connected with a story to the Second World War because it's only basically a stone's throw away from Leeds and Bradford Airport. Now, it wasn't the airport that they wanted to bomb, it was the actual buildings around the airport. These industrial buildings made spare parts. I think it was for Avro Lancaster bombers, so it would be a very important place for the Germans to destroy those buildings just to hold up the production of these aircraft. Now, the tarn would have been a reference point when the aircraft flew over at night. It would have to be on a clear night where the moon was out with no clouds, and the actual moonlight would reflect from this lake, and it would give the German bombers a reference point, and they could actually have carpet bombed this area to destroy those warehouses. So what they did, they drained this lake, or tarn as we call it around here, so that it wasn't visible from the air when the bombers came over. But in any case, if they had have located this lake, they wouldn't have found where the actual sites of these warehouses, that, as I say, created parts. I think it was for Avro Lancaster bombers, because they covered the whole roofs of these warehouses, these production areas, with grass, and they put on it false cows and sheep. They made those and put them on the top, so if the Germans came over in daylight, they would never ever see it, because it would just look like a field to them. And every day somebody would go up and change the position of these cattle and sheep, so to continue on fooling the German bombers or the reconnaissance aircraft that were coming over. But that's why the lake was actually drained. It was to stop them coming over at night and locating where the actual warehouses were. So it's a lovely place this nowadays for people to come and visit and walk around. And as I say, it's a sailing club. So we'll carry on walking around and I'll see if I can find any pictures to take with the remaining shots I've got on the Penguin 6x9 camera. Here with the path running away, so I'll see if I can take a picture of this. Do like this composition. Hopefully I can get it all in. Right, I got that shot. I think I got that in it though, but it is what it is. I've got 2 images to take. As I say, you only get 8 shots on a roll of 120 film. It's a place I've visited many times over the years. Walked the kids around it when they were younger. I've taken photographs like this at night. So it's a place that I'm very familiar familiar with. As that, it's also Leeds Sailing and Activity Centre. They have taken a photograph this way at night, and I think also from this angle at night. If I can find them, I will show you those pictures. I might take a picture from this angle using the Penguin. Get it set up and set the picture. Last shot, see if I can get a picture of this swan, if it'll come a little bit closer. So for that photograph, I set the distance to 10 feet, I think it's about 10 feet, and we'll just see how that turns out. I think I just got the one swan in. So that's my last picture on the roll. We'll go home and develop the film now and see what we've come up with. Right, I'm heading back to the car now, and just a word or two about these old folding cameras. This one I think is built in about 1950s, and you know, so that's, you know, it's nearly 70 years old, 70 years plus old. So you know, you're going to encounter certain things with them that are just not working right as they should have done when they were first made. It's just a matter of going out with these cameras and getting a kick out of getting them working again. You saw the things I had to do with this actual camera to get it working, and just going out and taking pictures. You'll never get groundbreaking photographs with them. The shutter speeds on this camera, it's round about, they say 50th, but it could be 30th, I'm not entirely sure. So hand holding them is not easy. You've got to have a really steady hand. That's something I haven't got. I would have preferred it on a tripod, but this camera, as you can see, doesn't even have a tripod socket. It would have made it easier as well for using this viewfinder on a tripod. With it steady, you could see probably better what you're going to get in the composition. But it's not about that, it's about keeping these old cameras going. They use film and it keeps film alive, and if you come back and you end up with some pictures from the camera, you're more than pleased. Well, I am, knowing that I've got another camera added to my collection that does actually take photographs, and it keeps these old, beautiful old cameras going. So right, head back to the car now, and as I said before, get back and develop the negatives and see what we actually come up with. So I've got the film out of the camera, and this is the roll of FP4. And I'm pleased to say that this is wound nice and tight onto the actual film spool. Now sometimes with these old cameras, when you wind them on at the back here, wind it on with that lever, and in the back here is where the film goes. Now if that film is not held tight in that area, the film will slightly unravel, and if it does do, when you take it out the camera and expose it to light, the light's going to seep in through those edges and you will get streaks of light on the negative, and that's something you don't want. Now it could be a couple of reasons. One is if the camera has got a spring like this, it's a tensioner, this presses onto the film and keeps it tight as you wind it on. Now it might be that spring has got worn over the years and it just needs bending down slightly just to tighten it up so it presses harder onto the roll of film. Now if it's broke off, which is quite likely in some of these old cameras, the best way to fix them is to insert foam at the back of this chamber, round about 2 centimetres thick. Put some foam in, tape it into the back, and it means when you put the film into the back of the camera, it presses on that foam, and as you're winding, it keeps it tight and it won't allow it to unravel. So it's just a little tip. Sometimes light leaks aren't always caused by leaking bellows or the camera back, light coming through the camera back. It can be caused by when you're taking the film out. If it isn't tight, you're going to get light coming in from the edges. So that's just a little tip. It's something I've found out over the years using these old cameras. Now I'm going to develop this this roll in a developer that I use a lot. It's one of my favourite, if not favourite developer, and that's Pyrocat HD. It's a staining developer. It puts a stain on the negative, so it does give more control of the highlights. It comes in 2 parts, part A and part B, and I'm going to use a method what they call semi-stand. Now because this shutter on this camera, which from reading about it, is supposed to be around about 50th of a second. I'm not sure what it is, I've not tested it, but it could be faster or it could be slower. So in that case, I don't want to be developing to a set time. So the best way to develop is use a stand or a semi-stand. Now I'm going to use a semi-stand development for 45 minutes. I'm going to put the film into the developing tank, fill it full of water first, then leave it to soak for about 2 minutes. Now once that's over, I'll pour out the water and then pour in the mixed Pyrocat HD, and then continuously agitate for around about 30-45 seconds. Now once you've done that, tap the tank sharply onto a worktop to remove the air bells, and then leave it to stand for 10 minutes. After the 10-minute mark, invert the tank gently for 10 seconds, then leave it again to stand for 10 minutes, and then do that till the end time of 45 minutes, and I can virtually guarantee you'll come up with a decent looking negative. It's a great safe way of developing, especially when you're using these old cameras. So I'll get up now, get this into the developing tank, get it developed, and then we'll see what these negatives are going to look like. Right, got the developer all washed. It's on the spiral. Pull it off now, and all will be revealed. The worst thing I'm thinking about is light leaks. Pull the film off. Oh, there don't seem to be no light leaks. Hang the film up. Put weight at the bottom, if I can find them. There we are. That's the weight on the bottom. So they don't look too bad. If I get a bit of white paper, something white just to hang behind them. See them from there. They don't look too bad. You can see that there. They've all turned out anyway. There's maybe 1 or 2 that seem correctly exposed looking at the negatives, and some maybe a little bit overexposed, I'm not sure, but all in all I'm quite happy. I can't really see any light leaks, so all in all I'm quite happy. So we'll just let them dry naturally now, and then we can get them scanned and see the result. So all in all, again, I'm a happy bunny. Well, I was quite happy with those results. They weren't half bad, and I enjoyed using the camera, although I must admit I did struggle a little bit with the viewfinder looking through them. At the best of times they're not good, but they're a little bit worn like this one is. They are difficult, but it is what it is, and I got what I got from it. But I was quite happy. I think, as I say, if you go out with high expectations with these cameras, that you could come back a little bit disappointed. They're not a Rolleiflex or a Leica of that time. They were built for the mass market and priced accordingly. So the lens on this, which is called a doublet, won't produce the quality of a planar lens like on the Rolleiflex or like a Leica lens. You'd have to pay a lot more money to get that. So they are what they are, but they are fun to use, and especially years on, when you get one of these cameras, get it working, and I get a kick out of it that I've got another camera that goes back nearly 70 years and it's able to take pictures. Unlike these, they are film cameras, but they're electronic. This one's electronic, it doesn't work, it'll never work. This one's electronic, that will never work, and this is electronic, and that will never work. But cameras like this and the Kodak Jiffy are all mechanical. The parts can be got to easily. You can adjust those, you can lubricate them, and you can get these cameras working nearly as good as when they were new. So they do go on and on, and with a bit of love and tender care, this camera could last another 70 years, which I don't think is going to happen with the modern electronic cameras of today. The thing with this camera is it's easy to use. You just point it at the subject, you could guesstimate the exposure, just look down and then press the shutter, and you've got your picture, and then wind on. And that's what basically they were designed for. But all in all, I'm very pleased. It's a lovely old camera. It's very well made, and I'm very proud to own a camera that was built in Leeds on my display shelf with the rest of my camera collection. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or a like. Press that notification button and subscribe to the channel. Get me there to 10,000 subscribers. And if you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll get back to you. And as I always say, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video. The Penguin 820.